Morning, everybody. Okay, so today is day 158 that Richard has vanished. And I'm going through all these documents, lots of documents that I've gone over and over again. Good morning, everybody. I'm sitting here reading through documents, and this is just one of them, of everything that we've collected, and I listened to recordings of everything that we've recorded. So, and then also screenshots, and I read comments, and I'm trying to stay focused because the focus here is to find Richard Halliday. And one of the ways we can find Richard is to compel the officer to do his duty to investigate the unit, which has been so-called investigated. We will see. This week we're going to get some information. But you have to understand, after months of being lied to, intimidated, manipulated, our son being destroyed, y'all. He may be dead. Do you understand? After months of discovering that they knew things before we even knew Richard was missing, that they withheld information, but decided to take parts of the information, like Serena Orono did yesterday and today that I read, and I'll tell you why she did that. Because of this narrative that's put out there, they take pieces of information to make Richard look like he's a criminal, like he is a thug, that he had criminal intentions himself, so that we won't care, so that the public will not care about Richard. Because the public perception of Richard is the complete power, is the power. It's what moves everything. And this is what helped Vanessa Guillen's family. There were people that were missing before, but because they had painted them as losers that would definitely go AWOL and be a deserter, of course they're losers. They wouldn't do their duty. They would, and then later they were found murdered. Okay? The public perception was put out there, or the narrative was put out there to manipulate public perception so that people wouldn't care about these missing soldiers. The glory of the Vanessa Guillen case is that they were not successful in painting her in a negative light. They were not successful. They tried. And the family today, as I am told, the mother today believes there's way more to this than sexual harassment. That's from the mother's mouth. She believes there's more to this than just the sexual harassment. This is a can of worms. And they bludgeoned her daughter. They put her in a trunk. They took her out to a wilderness area and cut her up in pieces and put her in a hole and covered her with concrete. And then they proceeded to try to manipulate the public perception against her. It's the worst kind of evil. And why am I saying this? Because since we found out that Richard was missing, they have tried to manipulate the public perception. We only have really one person, Nancy Grace, that I never even had to tell her to start the interview with Richard's record. She did it. Number one in basic training, number one in AIT, 300 plus PT score, the guidon bearer for his unit, the fastest runner in his unit, 3 AAMs in 14 months, outstanding performance on his Patriot missile launcher equipment. Okay? She's the only one that started the interview without me having to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. She got it right without me having to tell her that because she did some research. Thank you, Nancy Grace. Thank you. And so, this assault on Richard continues by the most curious people. Curious people. I would really love these people to be investigated, to look at their bank accounts, because it's very odd that they have the same last name as the SFC that was supposed to give the order for shelter in place. And then he said he did. He didn't give the order. He passed it on to be given. Same last name, y'all. He was given the duty to pass on the order, and then he was supposed to pass on the order. And then let's see, it says here, the platoon sergeants were then to brief the soldiers. So it went from Captain Park to SFC Arona to the platoon sergeants, then to the soldiers, this order. Okay? That's how it was supposed to work. And this email that I have here, this email is very curious. They wanted to make sure that it happened so that they could continue with their plan to absolutely destroy Richard, to make him an example. These men and women wanted to make sure that they had it in writing so that they continue with their plan to destroy Richard, to destroy him, y'all, with a field grade Article 15. And then, just yesterday, they defend that. They defend destroying a young man with false narrative. Are you ready to hear about your son? He got caught at the border with a rifle. The Army still has not straightened out that false narrative. And then you have a person with the same last name as SFC Arona spreading this narrative to manipulate public perception of Richard so that people will think that he is a criminal, that he is a no-good thug, so that everyone can wash their hands of what happened to him. This is what is happening. He was found at the border. Oh, yes. He did not follow the measures. He did not follow the safety. What the heck? I hope Richard is alive and he is found alive and he can tell his side of the story. Because these people are pure evil. Because if Richard got the order from his platoon sergeant and went into his car for a drive, and everybody was leaving, y'all, she even says this in her statement. I have numerous recordings. I have statements that say that people were leaving. And I have a lot of people that say, oh no, this was shelter in place. The community had shelter in place. Then I have a paperwork. It says the offense that Richard had. This is from the Department of Army, Fort Bliss. Memorandum for distribution. Richard failed to obey General Order UCMJ Article 92. On the Article 15, it was failure to obey a battery commanders. They can't get their stuff right. They set out in a very confused atmosphere, in a very confused environment. People were bringing in, and I have the name of the person that said, they were bringing in people, signing them into the base to party. They were very concerned about the sickness, weren't they? They're not concerned about the sickness, y'all. Think about it. I go over to Juarez, and I know it's happening in El Paso, and you have women that have been reduced because they've lost their jobs in the restaurant business where they could be waitresses and cooks and hostesses, but no, they're reduced to being prostitutes. Now, is that a concern for their health and welfare? It is not a concern for our health and welfare. How thick does your skull have to be to believe this false narrative that these measures are for the good of the community for health and welfare? And I'm not yelling at my followers. Who are they following? They're not following me. They're not following me. They're not following Richard. They're following the concern for our military, for what's happening in our military, what's happening to our young people. And I'm not picking on anybody. I'm telling the truth. The truth is that this whole scam, and you might not believe me because you've had people in your family that are sick. I have people in my family that are sick. I'm a survivor of ovarian cancer. I know what real sickness is. I know what chemotherapy is. I very seldom tell people, but I know what it is to have major surgery. Surgeries. I know what it is to see my grandmother die of pneumonia and be withheld medication that could help her. And if anyone knows me, you know, you can testify how much my Oma meant to me. We had to fight for her. I have a mother that I have fought every time she's gone in the hospital. She was with 10 days without a shower. I had to scream at the nurses to please let me use the shower that they were using as a storage closet. And I had to get the stuff out, including a big board, like a gurney board or whatever, out of this closet that was a shower, clean the shower myself so I could give my mother a shower in the hospital. This is in Norfolk, Virginia. Shame on that. No, I think in Portsmouth, Virginia. Shame on that hospital. And the nurses were like looking at me like, why do you have to do this? Really? Bathing is very important. Cleanliness is very important. Haven't you read Florence Nightingale? You're a nurse. Every nurse should be required to read Florence Nightingale. What does this have to do with Richard? It has everything to do with Richard, because he was just minding his own business. But the border guards were afraid for their life because Richard might pass on a sickness, and he was a healthy person. And he was taken to the hospital. Had nothing to do with his weapon in the back. Had nothing to do with it. We were even told at the beginning he had no ammo. And then they changed their mind because they can't tell a correct story. We don't know what to believe, but we do know the facts. He was stopped at the border. They feared for their life that he might have a sickness. They proceeded to impound his car and take him to the hospital to be tested. He was negative. He was handed over to a E4, back to the barracks. That we know for a fact. Another fact of that incident that they are manipulating to make Richard look like he was a criminal with criminal intentions was that no charges were made. No charges were made. Now, when is the army going to rally around Richard? When are they going to side with Richard? They're not. I think there's like a 99% chance that they will not rally around Richard. They will continue to disparage him. Because when we talk to the PAO and when we talk to Captain Yoshida, they were shaking in their seats. Their voices were, ooh. Why? If Richard had done everything they said, then they would have been able to talk to us with a straight voice. A straight voice saying, ma'am, your son went AWOL. We do not know where he is. We have a witness. And now he's a deserter. But that is not how it went, y'all. It was, That means I'm looking back at the whole thing. They know what happened to Richard before they even talked to us. They knew he was made an example of. They knew he might have laughed in their face and they got even. I have the paperwork, y'all. I had my own investigation. And we have offered immunity. SFC Arona. Don't send a family member to make things worse. Speak up. We're offering immunity. You know what happened to Richard. The unit knows what happened to Richard. I hope when the investigator came, you were truthful with him, because you know what? The father of lies, Satan, is working in that unit and everyone is lying. I have proof that everyone is lying. Proof. They knew what happened to Richard. Why do I have to go to this extent to compel people to do the right thing for a young man? I know why. because there's no morality. There's no moral courage. There is no self-sacrifice. It's all selfishness. And I would really like these bank accounts of these people to be investigated. I hope they were investigated. Because with the racketeering included in all of this, there must be some fat paychecks going in those bank accounts. And that would prove the racketeering charges or disprove them. If there's not any, please God, I hope there's not any. I want things to work out for the best. My battery's going out. Yep. Hold on, y'all. I have to plug this in. So, what's our next step? I have to stay focused. What's our next step? Our next step is to listen to what the Army has in their investigation, if they're a little bit honest, which so far nobody has not been honest with us, except for one general. At the very beginning, he was honest. He tried to be honest. He didn't know much. The one standing next to him knew more. Please, you know who I'm talking to. Please. You said you were concerned about Richard and our family. Please. For the sake of your own reputation with your family. Your family knows that you know. How can they ever respect you if you hide this? If you go along with this? We're offering immunity. We will fight for you. Please, tell the truth. Because you, right now, is the time and place when our country, our soldiers, our country, our army, all of our institutions are all under attack by a false narrative on sand with clay feet. We're going to be cast into the darkest night where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. We have no choice anymore. Why do you think I'm sticking my neck out here? I had this wonderful birthday party for James yesterday. James is Richard's godson. We had so much fun. We played Hot Wheels the whole time with Hot Wheel tracks and everything. He just turned 4. I want a future for him. I want a future. And we have no choice at this moment. So the next step, we're going up to DC. We're going to be going there with a crowd of people. If anyone knows where to stay, how to stay, please message me. Please join us. If you want to join us, please message me. We need to go up to DC. We're going to hold signs for Richard. We will use our megaphones. And we will go up there also for our country. We will go up there for our country. And why is this so important, this order? Let's say Richard did disobey a battery commander's order. Okay? And that battery commander's order was a lawful order. It was not a lawful order, and so his duty was not to follow it. Okay? I want to make myself clear. But let's say, devil's advocate, that battery order was lawful. It wasn't made in haste with very little thinking to it, with very little foresight, with very little strategy for the United States Army. And it comes from the highest levels. He was just a beginning. So as a battery commander, let's say Richard disobeyed it. Would he lawfully deserve to lose 3 ranks, 45 days of extra duty, 45 days of restriction, the loss of his car, and 50% of his pay for 2 months? Really? For taking a drive? Alone? Nobody was put at risk. Maybe he got fuel. Fuel was an allowable thing. Maybe he got something to eat. Getting something to eat was an allowable thing. Well, it depends on where you wanted to go. God forbid if you go into a restaurant. God forbid you go into a church to pray. God forbid you go on a hike. God forbid you go on a drive. And how much does it take to see the unjust maneuvers, the unjust punishment? You don't shelter in place and you have to spend 2 months to 4 months in prison in a foreign country? Yes, I'm bringing that up again because it is totally related. It's called Hammurabi's Law. It's not God's law. It's so over the top punishment, over the top cruelty. And you know, when that happens, it's really to make an example of people. It's really an act of tyranny. Let me cut you up in pieces so everyone can see, like they did to, I'm trying to get the name, Braveheart, William Wallace. Let us cut him up in pieces. They did worse things to him. And send him to the 4 parts of this country so that nobody else would get an idea to be courageous. Nobody else would be even dare to say a word. That is an act of tyranny, that overstep of punishment. You understand? They're going to have to cut me up in pieces to shut me up. They went out to destroy Richard. For what? For taking a drive? For disobeying a battery commander's order that was given to from Captain Park to SFC Orona to the platoon sergeants? The night before at 9 o'clock at night after they came in from the field and worked all day and everybody was all exhausted? Totally exhausted? And it was just carried out just properly, where all this paperwork is one big soup sandwich. Nothing is done properly. It's disgusting. If this is evidence of what our army is capable of, I'm scared. They should be ashamed of themselves. And if they can prove me wrong, please prove me wrong, because let me tell you, I spent yesterday Going through some other commander at Fort Hood that gave an AAM to somebody sent me, and it was like this really stupid reason why they gave this person an AAM. It was like one officer to another officer, like I don't know, whatever. It was a payoff, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying that pages and pages of comments against this action I read through. Richard's name was mentioned. That's why it was sent to me. And the morale of the Army is a national security threat at this point. Now, please, if I'm wrong, General Garrett, please, if I'm wrong, correct me, write me, call me. You have a huge task on your hand to protect this Constitution that protects the rights of the people that live in the United States. And you know what? I was called a racist. I was called a racist because I said Americans had privilege in other lands when it came to courts in other lands. When they committed a criminal offense, they were sent back to the United States to be tried, and if they needed to be imprisoned here in their own country. I was called a racist because of that. What are they teaching in school? I did it myself. I took my kids out of school. It's not even worth it. My Oma was right. My Oma that died of pneumonia because they refused because, she's old. She costs too much money to the state. So let's not do anything to her. Let's not give her any medication. It's time for her to die. Yeah. My sister will confirm that. She was with me. My sister will confirm that. It was horrible. Callous. What was I saying? I was on a really good train of thought. Please help me. About something. Geez, I lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Why in the world would they say that I'm a racist when I say, thank you, thank you for getting me on the right track. When I say Americans would not be treated like this young girl was treated, and Americans would not be treated like Richard was treated in the military because there was a sense of justice, correct justice, even-handed justice, justice for all, right, in this country. So they required Americans to be tried here in this country where they could get a fair trial, where they could be considered innocent until proven guilty. And why would they call me racist for saying that was the way it was and it was glorious? Because you know why? She has this idea that Americans were only the pilgrims, whites, Europeans. But that's not true. Don't you know? Africans, Chinese, Middle Easterners. This country has been a melting pot from day one. The Indians. And, is it a perfect history? It's a pretty doggone good history. For all the nasty people that are out there, our history is damn good. And that's why we rose higher than Europe so quick. And we have had a middle class that was number one. People were the king of their castle. And they could pursue happiness. And they could have justice in the courts. And if you call me racist because of that, really? What kind of education, what kind of books did you read? It didn't say if you were an American of white skin. It said if you were an American. And if you travel the world, you will know no matter what color skin that person has, you can pick out an American. You can say, oh, look at that American there. Look at that American there. There's a spirit about the Americans. And Richard, we are getting rid of the innocent until proven guilty. When have we fought for that lately? We haven't. We condemn people right away. Why do you think Rob and I are offering immunity? Because we don't trust the justice system. They might want to use a scapegoat. They might want to use a scapegoat to cover up the destruction of our son. Because we don't have justice. That UCMJ is not justice any longer. It's a weapon. The Article 15 is a weapon. It's not justice. And they destroyed Richard for it. We need to fight for justice. And that's how we will find Richard. Because if we offer the unit justice, true justice, righteousness, justice and righteousness can be interchanged. True righteousness and justice. And applaud moral courage, then they will come forward. But because the system has become tyrannical, and they have used Richard as an example, if you come forward and talk, you see what we did to Halliday? We're going to do worse to you. Prove me wrong, y'all. When I see soldiers shaking in front of me, shaking on the phone, trying to talk to me, I can't do anything to them. If Richard was not used to set an example of tyranny, to scare the hell out of other soldiers from talking, then tell me what happened. Please, I want to know. Tell me what happened. Tell me how I am wrong. So if anything happens to me, you'll know. They'll make an example out of me so that everyone will just shut up and be scared to death and not talk and not fight for their children. And then I had one person say, oh, she said she had the cure. Yeah. The cure is out there, y'all, for everybody. For everybody. Hope I don't have it on. My cross. Yep. That's the cure. The fear of God is the cure, y'all. Confession is the cure of souls. There's a book called The Cure of Souls by R.J. Rushdoony, where he lays it out very, very succinctly how confession, and that's why the churches have tried to get rid of confession. Confession is a cure of souls. So please call 941-677-0060 to confess. Confess. I know confession belongs to God. It belongs between you and God. Stay anonymous. But if you have information that you know where Richard is, I know why they destroyed him. It wasn't because of breaking a battery commander's order, because I have a name of someone that got a DWI, really bad DWI. Nothing happened to him. He was covered by the ceremony. Covered by the ceremony. If you are part of the ceremony, you take part of it, and then, you're part of the in crowd. Then you're covered. Now, am I downing those people that get covered? Because I've covered for my sister. I've covered for my children. You better, why did you do this? But I won't tell Daddy. I've covered for them. I understand that. That's, we have to have each other's back. Nobody wanted to have Richard's back because he was made a tyrannical example. Who had William Wallace's back? Robert the Bruce. The one that turned him in to be chopped up. Repented. Confessed. Was the cure of souls. He confessed. He started fighting. He lost. He went into hiding in a cave. He saw the spider keep trying and trying and trying because of the wind and everything. It would destroy the web. And he kept looking at how that spider kept trying. And he said, I have to be like a spider. I can never give up. And to this day, Robert the Bruce's emblem is the spider inside of his kilt. He's the original Spider-Man. The one that, look at, just the other day we had St. Stephen's Day. Paul held the cloaks of those that were stoning Stephen, the first martyr for Christ. And Paul repented. He confessed. The cure of souls. He was blind. He was made to see. Amazing grace. Amazing grace. He was the slave ship owner. He was blind. He was made to see. Some of the worst perpetrators of sin have become the greatest defenders of justice, of freedom, because confession is the cure of souls. So please, if you know anything, be like St. Paul. God's grace is amazing. You're blind, but if you repent, it's a cure of souls, and the scales fall and you can see, and the weight comes off of your back. And don't follow me, and don't follow Richard. Follow Christ. Follow God and fear God. That's what's going to save our country. All we have now is tyranny. Our justice has turned into tyranny. Our elections have turned into a fraud. We're standing on sand with clay feet. Our young are being eaten. Our young are being eaten. They're being turned into an example. And then they're not even allowed to keep their name. They have to be made into criminals so that nobody cares and scoffs at them. It's time for sackcloth and ashes. It's time for confession. It's time for the cure of souls. So we're going up to DC. We want to talk to people face to face. They don't want to talk to us. All they want to do is manipulate public perception. Public perception. That's all they want to do. To set forth their evil agenda. Because they know where the war is won is at public perception. And that's why I come on here. Because the war is won with public perception. So I need you to share this. I need you to comment. I need you to be warriors for Richard. To ask people to confess so that we can find Richard. To confess so that we can overturn this Article 15 that was indeed unjust and unlawful. So that he can have a future. And so that they can't use Article 15s as a weapon against more young or any soldier. That's what we're doing. And that's how we're going to find Richard, is by people confessing and giving them immunity. Giving them immunity to, that's grace. Immunity is grace. To come forward. And I'm really eager to see what Army is going to tell me now. But I don't think they're going to be as gracious as if you come forward to the Halliday family. We don't want any harm to come to anybody. Really. Because this is all a result of very high toxic culture dripping down upon us. Very high level of toxicity that's dripping on us down here below. That's what it is. So please, our number is 941-677-0060. And right now I'm with 4 of my grandchildren. And so if I don't answer right away, please call several times. I'll call you back. Please leave a message if you want, but I'll call you back. Don't give up. Because the one thing that I won't give up is loving on my grandchildren. Reading stories with them. Playing Hot Wheels with them. Playing Dolly with them. Until we get up to DC, researching all of this. So, thank you so much. Please be more than conquerors. This is another thing. I know I go on and on, but this is one thing that people have to understand. We don't want to be the conquered. We do not want to be the conquered. There's no virtue in being the conquered. We have to be more than conquerors. More than conquerors. And set forth Christ's kingdom on earth, where there is justice, where there is benevolence, where there is grace and mercy, where there is family, where there is opportunity to pursue your goals, your career, your talents that God gives you, and to be able to hold on to your treasures and not have them stripped from you. And used against you. We do not want to be the conquered. We must stand up and not be afraid of anything in our past. Think about what Isaac Newton was. Think about what, I'm trying to get all these names right, what Robert the Bruce was. He handed his best friend over to be killed, cut up, and yet he ended with, it's amazing how Paul was beheaded. For Christ's sake. I'm not saying we need to strive to be beheaded. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that your past does not define your future. That's what I'm saying. Your past does not define your future. There is a turning point. Anything I've done in my past does not define who I am now and who I can become. So I don't have to fear. I only have to fear God. That's it. That's it. So you have to be more than conquerors no matter what your past. Confession is a cure of souls, and it's what makes you into a more than a conqueror. More than a conqueror. Yeah. Because more than a conqueror brings grace and love and justice and truth and privacy into our lives. This is the cure. God bless you. Thank you for your support. Bye-bye.